I will introduce multi-time world and national champion, Guinness World Record holder, very good friend of mine, Michel.
Hell yeah.
Got me, guys? All right. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. Illustrator, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of touch a little bit upon what Phil was discussing with the 320 and all the new models that we have coming with that. Typically, I would bring you guys a lot of shooting tips as well, but I want to make this more so about the product and also give a couple of shooting tips here while I have your attention as well. But first of all, I want to start off with the 320 RX. So a lot of the same features Phil was talking about in the X5 competition, right? So in fact, I'm still shooting the actual 320, the original one, but there's a lot of things that we discussed and that we found over the last year or two in training and in competitions. You're now seeing in that X5 pistol. So it's pretty incredible to see the stuff that we've taken from the field and putting it into work. And the company, the Sig Sauer, they listen, right? They listen, they put out there what we're looking for. But one thing I'm really excited about is the RX. This is kind of like my baby. I know Phil's got his babies and I have mine, but this one's mine. And the reason why is because of the optic. So this is the first, to my knowledge, and the only to my knowledge, that you can go ahead and get a fully integrated pistol with the optic and the handgun all in one under one company umbrella. So this is a Sig Sauer optic, Romeo 1, with a 3-minute of angle dot. What does that mean? It covers up 3 inches at 100 yards. So it's a smaller dot for easier accuracy, greater, faster target transitions. But again, it's all under one umbrella under the Sig Sauer family, so the warranty is all through us directly. You don't have to purchase your firearm here and then get somebody to drill it out and put somebody else's optic on it. Next thing you know, you've tallied up another $500 to $1,000 in just machining and equipment. So again, this is all under one umbrella here for us, with a 3-minute of angle dot, extremely accurate. One of the first things we lose as a shooter, many of us, what do we say? It's like, I can't see the sights anymore. That's no more a challenge. Right now with the red dot optic, it makes it so much easier. As a competition shooter, I've been using red dot optics since, believe it or not, the late 80s. I started shooting really young, so we've been doing this for 20 plus years. Military, law enforcement have picked up on it as well. But the general population, general public really hasn't seen the red dot optics for a while, or really just yet. They're just starting to come on, relatively new here. But the reason why we've been using it for so long in competition is because it's just that much faster. So if you're trying to be more accurate, you're trying to be faster. Why is it faster? Because now my focus can be straight down range. I can focus on the target or the threat and just simply superimpose that red dot optic on the target. So it acts as my aiming device, right? It's not going to put the bullets where I want them for me. I still have to activate the trigger properly and hold that particular dot steady on target to make that shot count. But nonetheless, it makes it much easier because my vision can stay downrange on the threat, and my focal point never has to shift from target to sight. That takes time, and it takes a lot of skill, believe it or not, to be able to do that on demand. We can all sit here and do it in practice, but in a stressful situation, if you ask yourself to take your vision from there to here, it's hard to do. It's hard to do in a combative or a competitive situation. So this takes that out of the equation. So what does a red dot optic do? It simply just makes a good shooter. What's up, buddy? It makes a good shooter just better. Okay, that's what it does. It's easier for us to acquire the sight. It's faster, and it's for those aging eyes as well, right? So I'm extremely excited with the RX model. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. I understand how and why optics work the way that they do and how it makes me better. So I'm really excited to see the company kind of taking it over. If any of you are familiar with the United States Practical Shooting Association, it's one of the sports that I compete within. We have our new division, what we call the Carry Optics Division. And that's the pistol that I have here for my demonstrational purposes. You're going to see, this is my actual Carry Optics pistol. It's similar to what you just see there. It's a 320 RX. I just simply use a different SIG optic on my particular pistol, but it's all the same stuff. Same gun, same rules and whatnot, but there's a new division that allows you to have a production-ready gun with a slide-mounted optic. Again, aging eyes, or more than anything, it's just the trend. That's where we're going. We've been shooting optics for 20 plus years in competition, and the rest of the world is catching up with it, so we're able to utilize this in training and in competitions now. This is the exact pistol that I won the U.S. National Championship with just last year, and I also just set that Guinness World Record that Phil was talking about, where I drew this pistol from the holster and knocked down 6 targets in right at 2 seconds. So it's something I'm extremely proud of. This gun is extremely fast, but the red dot optic allowed me to shoot at that speed because I can keep my vision on the plates. So with all that said, guys, I'd like to give you a couple shooting tips while I have your attention here. So the biggest thing that I can give someone if I have a small period of time like this is recoil management. A lot of folks say there's no way you can see the sight when you're shooting that quickly. I go, sir, there's no way you can see the sights when you're shooting that fast. How can you do what you do and you're just seeing the sight once and pulling the trigger twice kind of a thing. Excuse me, but I'm here to tell you guys, I see the sight on every single shot that I fire, or else I wouldn't hit it. I mean, I miss sometimes, don't get me wrong, but I would miss a lot more frequently if I didn't see it. So how can I see the sights faster than my competition is really what I'm trying to accomplish. And I do that through two ways. It's the stance and the grip. It sounds boring, but I don't care how long you've been shooting. If you're a competitive shooter, law enforcement, military, or just somebody who likes to go out and shoot frequently every now and again, whatever the case may be, if you want to get better, you have to work on the fundamentals over and over and over again. I have what I call the fundamentals of speed shooting. Stance, grip, draw, reload, transitions. Transitions meaning moving the gun from target to target. If I don't work on those things, I can't really progress as a shooter. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to run into a position and try to shoot, and then I'm going to need my stance, I'm going to need my grip, I'm going to need the accuracy, the recoil management, the draw from the holster, the magazine change, the transitions, all those things we discussed. Lots of things are happening, right? So I'm just going to give you a couple of quick tips here. My stance is wider than shoulder width apart, and my strong foot is slightly to the rear. This is for stability. Well, three main reasons. Number one is for stability. The wider I am, the faster I can shoot, and the gun will rock me back. But by having that wide aggressive platform, it'll stop all that additional movement on target, keeping the gun stabilized much sooner, allowing me to shoot faster because I can see my sights faster. Next, I want to be wide and aggressive for transitioning. I can drive the gun with my lower body. My lower body's going to do most of the work. My upper body's going to pull and assist into that general direction as well. Okay, so that's going to help me get there. Now, the unique thing about having that wide platform is as I drive the gun at a high rate of speed, what's going to happen when the gun gets there, it has to stop before I can fire. I want it to stop soon. If my stance was narrow and I drive quickly over here, you see just a little bit of left and right lateral movement. That takes time, right? If I widen up that stance and I drive, that left and right lateral movement stops much faster. In fact, there really is none. Really, the gun just drives right to where it needs to be. How does the gun get to the right spot where it needs to be? That's the next part of the transitions, which is the eyes, moving the eyes at a high rate of speed, getting the eyes moving ahead of the gun, so that way I can look where I want to go and then drive to that particular target or that threat area that we just talked about with that stance. So the first two reasons, wide and aggressive, stability so I can shoot at a high rate of speed with acceptable accuracy. Number two, transitioning with stability. And last but not least, from this position, I can step off or push off in any direction that I want to with an explosive movement. Again, rather than being narrow, I would have to take a step back before I can explode, which is going to take time on the clock for me. I've won and lost world championships by 1/100th of a second. I know that sounds impossible, but there's these little timers, they do it to the 100th of a second. And it doesn't feel good when you lose by 1/100th of a second, I promise you. It feels great when you win by one though. So that's why I'm wide and aggressive. And if I can kind of work up and give you guys a little bit more information about the stance, I have about 70% of the weight in the balls of my feet. What is 70% weight? I just simply bend my knees, right? So as you're standing there right now, if you lock out your knees, you'll feel the weight go into your heels.
Yeah.
When the weight goes into your heels, you're assisting the recoil to push you back. So as soon as the gun goes bang, you're already off your toes. Your toes are already off the ground. It's hard to come back from that at a high rate of speed. You can wait for your body to rock back and then fire again, but that's slow, right? We can't do that. We don't have time for that. So how do I get 70% of the weight into the balls of my feet? I just simply bend my knees, just slightly. If I bend my knees, if you bend your knees, you'll feel the weight go into that general direction. Next, I'm gonna take my hips and push them back, which is gonna force my chest forward. Not to the point to where I'm feeling awkward and whatnot, but it's simply just a slight pivot forward. As I extend my pistol out is when I kind of push my hips back and my chest goes forward with the gun. It brings my shoulders closer to the balls of my feet, which basically takes my upper body and does this. Because again, remember the gun's pushing up here. So if my body is more straight like this, or I'm tucking my lower body or my upper body back like so, my lower body's going forward, the gun's gonna push me back on my heels. So I'm trying to counter that as much as possible. I can't control the recoil, I can only manage it. So that's what I'm looking to accomplish here. A couple last things that I have for you for the stance. My head is very much upright and relaxed. My shoulders are down to their sockets. If I bring my eyes to the gun, rather than bring the gun to my line of sight, what happens is I duck my head down, my shoulders rotate and roll over. That's the tendency we all have. And when you're in this position, it's very, very difficult because you're stressed out, you're tensed, you can get fatigued. But more importantly in my world, because we only shoot for anywhere from 5 to 35 seconds at a time, if I'm here, I'm losing my peripheral vision, which means I can't pick up my next target, or in a combative situation, I don't see what's going on around me at a high rate of speed. That's not a good thing, right? We want to keep our vision open at all times. I'm keeping the shoulders down and away, and then up in front of my face. The last thing about this stance is you notice that my arms are about as far out as I can take them without locking the elbow. Once I lock that elbow, what happens is the gun lifts and recoil, the energy from the pistol translates directly through my arm and into the back of the shoulder blades. And this is an exaggeration, but the gun lifts up because it has nowhere else to go. When it hits me in the shoulders, it's going to bounce up, and the weight is on my heels at that point, which is going to take longer for the sight to come back down. To counter that, I want to bend my elbows just slightly. My elbows now act as a shock absorber, so I'm taking my arms out as far as I can possibly take them, and then just unlock the elbow rather. So a slight elbow bend. Now as the gun lifts and recoil, the energy from the pistol translates through my arm and into the elbow to act as a shock absorber before it hits me into the shoulder blade. So again, now I'm getting less pressure pushing back, I'm leaning forward, all those things we just talked about, I have a mechanical advantage on the pistol before it lifts and recoil because I have more weight forward. All while being relaxed and not muscling anything, just allowing the techniques to work for me. If I'm relaxed, I can be fast. If I'm fast, I can be explosive, and then I can just be consistent and repeatable and hit my targets the way I need to at that point. So that's the stance I'm utilizing, but that's just one piece of the process. The next thing we're looking for is the actual grip on the gun. So the first thing I want to say about the grip is you notice mine has this bling on it, I guess you can say, lots of sparkle. But what it is just traction. Grip tape, stippling, whatever it is you might want to do. A lot of great guns out there that are built. None of them are specifically built for you or I. We're not that cool yet. Maybe one day we'll get it, right? But for now, we have to make these guns fit us. It should feel as if it's an extension of your hand. If it feels like a foreign object in your hand, you're asking yourself to use it in a stressful or combative situation, it's not the best idea, right? So let's make sure it fits us comfortably, whatever we can do to it to make that happen. Polymer grips are typically slippery for the most part. And so add traction is just going to help you keep that grip for a longer time, shooting round after round in one particular position. So with that said, I'm looking for 2 points of contact with my grip, or with my firing hand rather. The first point of contact is the web of my hand, as high as possible underneath the back strap of that pistol. The second point of contact is that middle knuckle just in front of, that point right here just in front of that middle knuckle, right? Underneath the trigger guard again. I want to keep my thumb placed up top for a couple of reasons. One, if you're running a 1911 driven pistol or 1911 or any safety driven pistol, we want to keep our thumb on top of that safety so we don't inadvertently bump it up in recoil. If that thumb goes underneath and I start firing, and just by simply squeezing the gun tightly, the web of my hand could pop up that safety. And what happens is, tap rack trying to figure out what's going on, and it's just the safety was bumped up, right? So let's avoid that by keeping that thumb up on top of that safety. Also, by keeping that thumb up high, I have a nice opening here for my support hand to get into. If I take this thumb and place it down onto the grip, which I see a lot, it happens a lot. My father still does it to this day, and I argue with him all the time on the range, but he's not changing anytime soon. What happens is you don't have any spot for your support hand to get into, and your support hand is going to do 60 to 70% of the work. Everybody I'm sure here has shot carbines and whatnot with some compensators on the end of the rifles. This is your compensator on your pistol. You don't have a compensator, this is it, right? So my support hand is going to do most of the work, so I have to have a nice opening there to get as much contact with the gun as I can get. So my third point of contact is going to be that middle knuckle on the index finger underneath the trigger guard, and I'm going to point both thumbs out toward the targets. Now real quickly, I'll tell you why I placed that finger under the trigger guard and not up top. We have some stippling up here that some folks like to utilize and place up top. The only reason why I choose not to place my finger up top here is because what we call sympathetic muscle reflex. In a stressful situation, when you're banging away at the trigger, sometimes this guy wants to do it as well. And even if it's just a little flinch or twitch, it's going to take that sight right off the target. Pistols are very inherently difficult to shoot already, so let's make it easier on ourselves, right? So take that hand, or that finger rather, and place it underneath. Now by having both thumbs pointed out toward the targets, what this does for me is make sure that my left hand, or my support hand, is at a 45-degree angle downward. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm locking my wrist into place. Okay, so if I put my finger straight down range, and I utilize this finger as acting as if it was recoil, and I was to push it straight back just by simply doing this, right? I'm acting as if this is recoil. It's very easy to break that wrist, which means the gun's going to lift that high. If I place my hand at a 45-degree angle downward and utilize the same amount of pressure, the gun will not lift quite as high as it might want to, right? It's very difficult for me to break the wrist at that point. So the gun's going to lift and move no matter what. But these little things, these little pieces of the puzzle will keep it flat or keep it straight or allow you to shoot faster because you can see faster. Right, so that 45-degree angle downward with all that traction we talked about, as the gun's trying to lift up and back, the gun's going to bite into my palm. And when it bites into my palm, the wrist is locked. It won't be able to lift quite as high as it may want to. So that's the grip that I'm utilizing. Now grip pressure, I have about 30 to 40% of the pressure of my firing hand, and as I mentioned, 60 to 70% with my support hand. The reason why I have less pressure with my shooting hand is so that way I can manipulate the trigger nice and smooth to the rear if I need to make an accurate shot, but also I can be more rapid here. We talked a little bit about that relaxation earlier. If I tense up my hand, all the tendons in my finger get tense, and it's very difficult to press that trigger quickly. You've ever heard of trigger freeze, where the gun goes bang, you don't allow the trigger to reset? If I ask you to shoot 6 shots in 2 seconds, it might sound like bum, 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 with one of those kind of deals, rather than just boom, 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 a nice smooth cadence, relaxed cadence. Just relax that hand. That allows us the ability to move it more freely and more rapidly. What is 30 to 40%? If I had a hammer in my hand and I was driving a nail into a piece of wood, that's about how much pressure I have in my strong hand. Right? So I have control over it, but I'm not death gripping it. My support hand just has twice as much pressure, if that makes sense. Last thing I'll say for you guys here as far as it relates to the grip is trigger finger placement is extremely important. If you place just the tip of your finger on the trigger and you press nice and slow to the rear, the gun will go bang and you'll hit in the center of the target. If you put a whole lot of finger in there and go nice and slow to the rear, you'll hit the target, I'm sure. However, when you start going fast, talk about speed shooting, combative shooting, we must place that center digit, the center portion of that first digit flat on the trigger and go straight back to the rear at a high rate of speed. Because, if I can show you guys here, if I put just the tip of the finger on there, as I go back slowly, no muzzle movement. As I go rapidly, you'll notice that it shifts outward just slightly. Because what's happening is as I'm pressing that trigger back, I'm pushing it away. If I put too much finger in there, you notice how easy it is to pull the gun inside my body. Yeah. So if you have a great grip one way or the other, take a look at exactly how much finger you're putting on that trigger when you start running the gun a little bit harder and a little bit faster. So again, those are just a couple of quick tips for as far as it relates to recoil management, the stance, the grip. There's several other aspects of the game that you can work on, but if we can really shore up that stance and grip, it'll allow you to see faster, which will allow you to shoot faster and also be more accurate. And as I said, optics is only going to just help that and make you even better and faster shooter as well. So thank you guys for your time. I'll be here signing any posters that you may want for your shop or for your gun room and answering any personal questions you may have. So guys, enjoy the rest of your show. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah. Thank you.